Welcome everyone to Read the Book First. Today I was thinking about it, I've known you online through the bookish world for over 10 years. My friend Kara is here, which is so crazy. I mean, digitally, shout out, internet. But I was thinking about that. It's been 10 years, over 10 years since our like booktube bud days.
Yeah, I know. My mom texted me the other day and she was like, Your dad wants to do a podcast with you. And I was like, Well, I'm actually being a guest on a podcast for the first time. So I can like let you know how it goes. And I was like, Yeah, it's my friend Janessa from like YouTube. And she's like,
Mhm.
I remember that name. Like, well, you would because I was living at home when I was
Yeah,
starting my booktube journey. But yeah,
yeah.
I was like, I mean, it's been at least 10 years, maybe 12. Like, I
Hmm.
don't remember exactly
Yeah.
when like we started following each other as
Hmm.
like mini booktubers.
A little tiny, like, and it's fun
Yeah.
because in the last like year I've gotten back on Bookstagram and stuff, and but like you and a few other folks that I followed over 10 years ago are still like occasionally posting. I'm like, hey, remember when we like talked all the time about books? Wild.
Yeah. I know because like I follow you and there's a few
Hmm.
others too where it's like we
Hmm.
follow each other on Instagram. Neither of us are like posting bookish content, but we still like interact with
Yeah,
each other. It's like this is like my internet friend, which is not that
yeah,
weird. Everybody has internet friends now, but like
absolutely.
it's
Yeah, it was
fun.
weird 10 years ago, but now it's like normal.
Yeah.
And then we did
Yeah,
that.
exactly. We did that. It was us. Good job.
Yeah. But today we're gonna be talking about Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion, which is a book that you told me to read like over 10 years ago. And I think I read it like I think we did a buddy read at one point reading it semi like
Yeah.
whatever. But I was like, that's why I was like when I was gonna like I should do this for the podcast, I was like, I'll see if Kara wants to join me.
Yeah. I was like such a big fan of this. I mean, I still am, but
Hmm.
when I read it, I was like telling everyone, and I still like, I went back and watched my review of it that I did when I
Yeah.
was like 16, I think, or
Hmm.
17. And I mean, it's fine. Like I watched it, I was like, oh, is this gonna be cringe? This is like high
Yeah.
school me. But it was fine. I was basically just gushing and saying, everybody has to read this book. It's so good. And I even said, like, oh, there's like a blurb from Stephanie Meyer, but it's not like Twilight, because I was like trying to distance myself from,
From the
I don't
Twilight.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was
I
the
was a
era.
snob.
I
Yeah.
I
I
I
was a
understand.
snob, but I was like, it's great. And then like I remember when I was a freshman in college, this I still don't know how, but my review like got like went viral on some other forum because I
Mhm.
started getting a bunch of trolls and like hate comments, and they were like super mean.
That's
It was like
awful.
it was like, how dare you? Like this is not how zombies should be written. Like they were very against the concept of like
Yeah.
like a different approach to zombies. They were like, zombie love story. This is garbage. Like, how could you recommend this? And I was like, geez, it's like, I liked it.
I'm
Sorry.
having a fun time, guys. Stop messing it up. I think it's funny. My copy that I have doesn't have the Stephanie Meyer blurb because it's the combo of the prequel
Okay.
and Warm Bodies. But I think that's like such a 20 because this book came out in, like what, 2010,
Yeah,
I
something like
think.
that.
But it's such a like, that's the era where Stephanie Meyer's name was on anything that could be considered YA because they're like, sell this.
Yeah.
And like
When
I
it's really not very wise.
it's not yeah, it's just like just because there's a teenager does not mean it's YA. But the
Yeah.
publishing industry at that point was like, teenager must be YA. And I'm like, no, I would this belongs in just normal sci-fi
Yeah.
area. But if you've not heard of Warm Bodies, it's pitched as a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but with zombies. We can debate whether or not we think how much of that is actually true.
Yeah.
Because like, there's bits and stuff. But we have our main character, R, who is a zombie, and he doesn't remember his full name. He lives in this zombie kind of community in a abandoned airport. He specifically lives in an airplane, which is so cool.
Yeah. I love that.
The book is told from R's perspective, which is interesting to be inside the head of a zombie, right? Because zombies are, you know, culturally brainless. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. But he's like a very deep philosophical zombie from the beginning. And the way he describes the like community, it's just that alone makes me love the book.
Like he obviously his perspective grows and changes throughout the book, but from the very beginning, it's like this guy, like obviously his brain is not completely gone. He is having thoughts and feelings and expressing them. And it was like nothing I've ever like I was into the dystopian, like
Hmm.
post-apocalyptic types of books, and I know you were too. So I was drawn to it because of that, but I was like, we've never heard this side, like the side of the monster or the side of the, conventionally the villain,
Hmm.
and he's the protagonist and we're sympathizing with him right away. And like it doesn't take long to get to a scene where he's like doing his zombie thing, like killing and eating brains,
Yeah.
but it's still like I'm not okay, yeah, I am repulsed by this, but I'm also fascinated.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes. In the
Yeah.
most like non-serious way, like, like in
Yeah.
the book way. And absolutely. Because like even like within the idea that there's zombies like R and his bestie M,
Hmm.
who's like just a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like just like very misogynistic. And I'm like, the idea of a misogynistic zombie, hilarious because it's a
Yeah.
zombie. But there's like in this community, there's like kids that are, zombies, but children. And then there's also bonies, which are like skeletons walking around.
Yeah.
And so the like adult zombies that are able go out to the cities, forage humans, bring them back for the kids and the bonies. And so like there's this weird sense of community in the zombie world that I find so fascinating because it does mimic ours,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
we take care of the kids and the elderly folks. It's very primitive.
Yeah. But it is like a society, like a functioning society. There's not a lot of like communication obviously between the different zombies. It's all kind of just like, they're like,
Grunts.
yeah, grunts and moans and like trudging around, but they have a routine, they have a system. And part of what's interesting is from the beginning, R is like, there's got to be more to life
Hmm.
than this, which like life, what do you mean? Like you're on a, but he's like, I'm not happy with this like
Hmm.
existence that I have. I'm not like fulfilled by the like he says he likes going on the moving walkways in the airport and just like floating around, and none of the other zombies are expressing any, well, they're not expressing anything, they're
Yeah.
grunting. But he and M, they have like these really stunted conversations, like one or two words throughout the book. He's like, I had a new record today, 4 words in a row
Hmm.
without like a pause. So yeah, it's like R and M just vibing, but M is, yeah, like you said, M is an asshole. He's a
Yeah.
misogynist. He's not having like philosophical thoughts like R. He's just like, I
He's just
mean,
more aware. He's able
yeah,
to make jokes, which is a sign of intelligence, right? So whereas R has the like philosophical, like what is the meaning of life side of being a human, M is like, hey, what about that joke? Haha, which
yeah,
in a bunch of zombies, at least one's gonna be a misogynist, you know?
right. And it does, I mean, a lot of this book is obviously R's internal dialogue and then later dialogue with people who talk more than him. But it's nice at the beginning to have at least some sort of, feedback between R and another being, because I mean, I enjoy all the
Hmm.
internal dialogue, but it's like, okay, let's see him interacting with someone or something that's not just like grunting
Yeah.
or like roaring like the bonies roar and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I really find it interesting that they create a semi like church of sorts and this like big like almost like amphitheater they created with broken down cars and stuff.
yeah,
And R gets forced to marry this girl, and then they get two kids that they have to adopted. And so he's like, and now I'm a father, and I still wonder if there's more to life. And I'm like, okay, is this like a midlife crisis situation now? But we don't know
Yeah.
how old he is or anything.
Yeah.
Like, and he doesn't know at
He
all.
doesn't remember anything about his past, like before he became a zombie. I
Hmm.
don't even know if it says how he remembers R or if that's just like he's like,
That's
I
all
don't
he
know
can
my name,
remember.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna go with R for now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the whole like I think they describe the amphitheater as like a bunch of those stairs, like the airport
Hmm.
staircases put together like bleachers, and it's very like evocative and vivid in my head of like this like post-apocalyptic zombie church.
Hmm.
Like it's just unsettling and
Very, yeah.
bizarre, but really
It's
cool.
it's creepy, but it's also familiar. And the zombies were humans, so it's like they could be us. Like I like for like this zombie novel, it's so much more than just a zombie novel, which I love. And
Yeah.
like even just from the beginning of that part, you get it. But then the plot really picks up when he and M go and to go get some humans at a nearby destroyed city. Um, R ends up eating the brain of one of the living. So the zombies call or R calls the humans living, and then the zombies he calls undead. So
Mm.
like that's how he distinguishes them. But he eats the brain of this like boy, this teenage boy or young man, I guess. Might be, I
Yeah,
don't know, whatever,
20s. I don't
20s.
know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he starts to like experience that brain's memories, which is just the coolest idea. Because like in classic zombie like movies and books, it's like I want brains, but then it's like why?
Yeah, it's just like a very
Yeah.
primal like this is sustenance.
Hmm.
But in this book the brains have memory attached to them. And yeah, he kills this young man.
Hmm.
He eats the brain. And for some reason, this brain, like the memories are way more vivid and way more interesting to R. Like he never really talks about any other brains that he's eaten.
Hmm.
But this one is like he's fascinated by it. Like he hoards it, because like usually the raids and bringing back the humans, it's very community based,
Hmm.
everyone's getting fed. This brain that R finds, this is his brain. He's
Hmm.
not sharing it with M. I'm pretty sure at one point he and M are like chilling, eating brains together. Uh, and M is like, let me have some of that. And R's
Yeah.
like, no, this is my special brain with special memories, and it's all mine. Which is in part, of course, because the memories contain this girl,
Hmm.
Julie.
Julie, yeah. And he is able to say her name after that memory. And he sees her with this like group of young people. And he's like, I'm going to take her as not as in like, I'm going to take her and eat her. I'm going to protect her because he experienced this memory involving her.
Exactly.
And so they go back to the plane, and I every time they're in the plane, I love the descriptions because R has like collected things, which I think is such a fun zombie activity. Like he's just
Yeah.
going throughout the airport, being like a CD. I'm gonna bring that back. Like he's scavenging, right? But there's
Yeah.
all these human-made things that are super like a lot of music specifically, which is
Yep.
such a human thing,
Hmm.
right? And I just think that's so fun.
It feels very like Mr. Weasley with his muggle item.
Yes.
Like I don't understand and I don't know what this is, but I'm drawn to it. And so I have
Hmm.
my little like dragon hoard of records and CDs and other human objects
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
Boeing 747 or whatever he lives in.
Yeah, and a lot of the songs he has are like Frank Sinatra or the Beatles. Like they're like classic old love songs, which I
Yeah.
find interesting that those are the ones they chose because I feel like just from the vibe of Isaac Marion following him online for the last 15 years, I feel like he's a very like hipster indie kind of guy that listens
Yeah.
to like a random music he heard in the middle of nowhere from a small artist forever. You know what I mean? And so the fact
Yeah.
that he chose these like very popular, like world renowned songs, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because the more audience reach, but I just was like, you're not going to choose like the Smiths, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he
You're
seems
not going
like
to
the
choose
Smiths
something a
kind of guy.
little. Yeah, he does. I agree. I agree. And I think it really speaks to R as a character because he is a romantic, like he
Mm,
it's like yeah, he loves it. There's like a yearning inside him for these human things and like human feelings. So it makes sense that he'd be drawn to like love songs because he's like trying to connect with his human self through these like corny, classic
yeah.
crooner.
Songs that you hear like your whole world or your whole time,
Yeah.
your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and poor Julie is stuck in this plane and literally surrounded by zombies. Um, and once she like is able to like calm down from being kidnapped by a zombie, terrifying. She's like, I need food. I'm gonna leave this plane, which I was like, every time she like decides to leave the plane or leave R, I'm like, you're gonna get attacked.
Yeah,
Like,
like they make a big deal about how they can smell the living, which
yes.
obviously like makes sense. When they're hunting in the city, they're smelling to find, the living humans that they can eat. And yeah,
Hmm.
like she doesn't have a real strong sense of like self-preservation. Like she's literally in the middle of a zombie horde
Hmm.
and she's like, I'm gonna go get something to eat
Yeah.
by myself. And he's like, no, no, no. Let me help, please.
Yeah.
Like, I need to protect you. And they like smear her with like his zombie
Hmm.
blood and as a camouflage, which is obviously disgusting, but
So gross.
whatever works.
Yeah, it keeps you from not becoming dead or undead.
Right.
Yeah. They get like pad thai too, which I think is hilarious. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, if I was at the end of the world, captured by a zombie, I would want pad thai. I mean, I
Right.
always kind of want pad thai. So,
Yeah. It is surprising. I feel like they explain, first of all, they don't really explain how long it's been since the world has ended, do they?
hmm.
Like,
Yeah, we don't know much, and it's like it's hard because there's a ton of zombies at the airport, but that
mhm.
makes sense. Like if a zombie apocalypse were to break out, any sort of public place is going to be the first to be hit huge,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
but like it hasn't been like super long because R is still able to like walk and be active,
Yeah, and
right?
when he's like seeing these flashbacks when he eats the brain, they're not from that long ago because he's seeing like Perry, the guy whose
Mm,
brain he's eating. He sees him as like a slightly younger
hmm.
young man in a world where obviously this apocalypse has either just started or is about to start.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, like they explain the whole pad thai thing. Like how is she finding unspoiled human food? Well, it hasn't been that long, I guess, and they find some freezer that's like inexplicably still
Because the
working
power
with a
comes
generator.
on occasionally at the airport,
Yeah,
which I find confusing because that's like, I don't know. Like you just that's one of the things you're gonna have to just like, you know,
yeah,
just be like, it's part of the world. Don't
yeah. It's
question
part of the
this.
world. Somehow there's
Yeah.
a generator that's kept this freezer running for who knows how long, and this pad thai is somehow edible.
And it's funny because the whole premise of this novel, as far as R's journey, and yet the stuff in the airport where I'm like, but how is the pad thai? That's the stuff I'm like scientifically. Whereas the
Yeah,
whole rest of the novel, I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
yeah. Oh, totally fine. Yeah. But the pad thai,
The
how is
pad
that still
thai.
good?
Um, yeah, so we see like Perry like through the memories, Perry before the apocalypse has fully taken over, then Perry in the stadium with Julie as teenagers, where he's like very like the artsy, like very like heartfelt, emotional. So we see him at the start through the memories, the brain, at that part
Yeah.
of his life. Eventually Julie's attacked by some zombies. And then R like ends up beating them up, like very much like don't you dare touch her kind of vibes. And then
Yeah.
ends up punching M in the face, and M is like, "Bro, what? Me?"
Yeah, like like what are you
Mhm.
doing?
Yeah. R's like, "Okay, I will take you back to the city so you can go home and be safe." And we also, at some point in this like section, we also find out that the Bonies are training the little kids how to hunt. Like they
Yeah.
take a live person and like Coliseum style, put them with a bunch of zombie kids. Like that's their
Yeah.
school, which is it is so gruesome. Like that's honestly that's probably the most gruesome part of the book for
Yeah.
me. And I don't know if it's described really gruesome or just the idea of a child destroying a human, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty savage.
Yes, yes. But we also know that the Bonies collect pictures and they put them up in like the rooms that they stay in. And I really, again, it's the collecting human
Yeah.
artifacts.
Yeah.
But the Bonies are way less human than R is. So it's like, is collecting a human thing? Is it a zombie thing?
It's sort of implied that the zombies will all become bonies
Hmm.
eventually. That's kind of like the late stage zombie disease, I guess.
Hmm. The world is like really deep, but also silly.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like when I read this as a teenager, I obviously I knew it was a bit silly, but I took it very seriously. Like
Hmm.
I was very into it. I was like die hard. Really, I saw no flaws with it. Reading it this time around was a little bit like, okay, I still love this. And not only do I think it's a genuinely good book, but it's nostalgic for me. But like it is like, come on, there's some silliness.
There's some
Like
silliness to it. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it is
I
not a 100% serious like literary work. Like
yeah,
it is a bit silly and it's best to embrace that and not be
yeah.
like this is a flawless work of literary fiction. No,
Hmm.
it's actually not, but it's still good. Like
Yeah, yeah. You can be silly and good.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had the same kind of experience reading this, rereading this because I was like, this there's a lot more like tongue in cheek, like poking fun at current world or 2010 current world than
Yeah.
I saw. Obviously, as a like, I was, I don't know, probably like 18, 19, 20 when I first read this. And
Yeah.
the world has changed and I have grown and now I'm old and whatever. But anyways, R is taking Julie back to the city so she can eventually go back to the stadium because all of the living live in like pockets of stadiums around the world at this point is what we know.
Yeah.
Um, and there's we find out more as we eventually get to the stadiums, but Julie ends up calling her dad and it's like, I'm safe, I'm fine, like come get me. I'm here,
Yeah.
like I'm alive, come rescue me. Um,
Yeah.
and as this is happening, we also get more dreams via R starts to dream via the brains of Perry about like Nora, who is Julie's bestie, and Perry and them hanging out, and Perry and Julie starting to become like a romantic relationship.
Hmm.
Um, and that progress. R leaves her while she goes and gets rescued, and that night he has a real dream. And in this like real dream, Julie doesn't want to become or doesn't want to be with R, and then she eats him or goes to
Oh,
eat him.
I forgot about that.
And it's just like, but like it's one of the things that when R is starting to change, because as he's like hanging out with Julie, he's like, I smiled today. I
Yeah.
laughed once. I said a whole sentence, right? Like there's
Yeah.
these little like steps, and then he goes to this weird dream where Julie eats him.
Yeah.
Yeah. M finds R and tells him that the Bonies have forced M and some of the others away from the airport because they have changed.
Hmm.
Um, and then and M had a dream in general and is like, "Oh, I had a dream," which is, we
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with M at all. And so other zombies are dreaming in this world. And
Hmm.
that's where part one or step one of the book ends. I forgot. It's called step one. What's the first one? Step one, wanting. And
Okay.
then step two is taking, which is
Oh
the
yeah.
second part, which It's interesting. Part two is when the other zombies and M help R get into the stadium. So M like does his hair and puts on clean clothes he finds in some house in the city, and then he
Yeah.
pretends to run away from the other zombies towards the stadium. So the stadium thinks that that's a person, and then
Yeah.
he just like the guards are like, "You look tired," and M's like, or R's like, "Uh-huh." And then they're
Yeah.
like, where's your papers? And he just kind of like slips away and sneaks.
Yeah. That's so good. It's funny because yeah, obviously by this point our he's still very zombie like, and
Yes.
it's funny to me that he gets away with this, but it's because the other zombies like M and his entourage are more zombie like, and it says that they like really lean into like
Hmm.
groaning and like stumbling to chase R, and he can somehow like run enough like a human that in contrast to this entourage, the people at the stadium are like, oh, this must be some random human straggler, you know, that
Hmm.
somehow has made it on his own. I don't know. It seems like there's not a lot of really critical thinking because he fools
Yeah.
them pretty easily into being like, yeah, like help, like let me in. You know, these zombies are chasing me. Like I'm also a zombie, but like you don't
Just
know
don't look at
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And they reference like a nearby stadium. Are like, oh, you must be from this nearby stadium.
right.
And he's like, yes.
Yeah. And he's giving these like super short answers because he can't
Hmm.
speak properly because he's a zombie. But he's
Yep.
just like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he
Um,
slips in.
he slips into the stadium, and the way they describe the stadium of how they've like it's a big like what would be like a football stadium. They created like layers of civilization and like a
Hmm.
town, like a city within it, which I think is a very fun idea, and like some stuff we've seen before in like dystopia books and movies. You kind of see stadiums turn into, I'm thinking of Mad Max Thunderdome, though that's less of a city and more just a battle arena. But
Yeah, but still.
just similar stuff. And then using his memories of Perry's memories, he's able to find the house where Julie lives. And here we have what's equivalent to like the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet where he's like yelling at the window and she comes
Yeah.
out of it. So like as far as a Romeo and Juliet comparison so far, like R we're assuming stands for Romeo, and then
Hmm.
Julie is almost Juliet, and
Hmm.
then you have two people's families who don't get along, obviously humans v zombies.
Right.
And then we have the balcony scene here, but arguably that's like where the end of the Romeo and Juliet retelling sort of vibe goes, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I think at this point, like obviously R is having some form of feelings for Julie,
Hmm.
both as R and through the memories he's gotten from Perry's brain and the dreams he's having. Because Perry and Julie were together, and R is sort of like enamored with this, human girl. But I mean, he's still very much a zombie and he very much kidnapped her. And you see Julie, she's intrigued by him and they have a sort of friendship, but at the point where he's coming to her house in the stadium, I would not say she's like in love with him like
No. Or
at
even
all.
attracted.
Yeah,
Like
like I mean
they're
he's
buds.
right, they're buds and she's like sort of suspended her, her idea that all zombies, are out to get humans because she's met this zombie that's clearly different. So she's like intrigued by him, interested, they're friends. He still kidnapped her. He's still a zombie. Also worth noting though that from the time he kidnaps her to this time where he's come to the stadium, he has not like fed on any
Oh yeah.
human flesh.
Yeah.
He's like
He
just his appetite is gone.
Yeah, he's like been he says something to like Nora or to Julie where he's like, I've been human celibate or like something like that, brain celibate for since I met Julie or something like that.
Yeah. So we're clearly meant to think like, okay,
Yeah.
something's different because he said before that like animal, animal brains, animal
Hmm.
flesh does not work. Like it's human only. There's no
Hmm.
like vegetarian zombies, but his like drive to eat has permanently or temporarily gone
Stopped.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He also is able to start like reading at this point. He like recognizes letters. He can't like read words yet, but he's like recognizing stuff. So the more he's with Julie, the less undead he is.
Hmm.
So and like as the rest of the book goes, when I read it when I was a teenager, I was like, they're in love, you know? But now rereading it, I'm like, does he love her or does he like not being undead? You know?
Right. Yeah.
And
Does he like who he's becoming with her and kind of because of her?
yeah. And then does he also like her for her or because Perry's memories loved her, right?
Right.
So there's this
Yeah.
two like is it real?
Yeah.
And I think we can get, once we get to the end of the book, it's debatable all three ways. You
Yeah.
could argue all of them,
Yeah, for sure.
which I love the weird nuance of that.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Gilgamesh in this book. Did you ever have to read Gilgamesh in high school or
No,
something?
I did not.
I did. Mm, Let me tell you, you can skip it.
But
And
what
yeah,
is Gilgamesh about this book?
Gilgamesh is like a creation myth story that people like to point at it and be like, this is what like Noah and the Ark and some of the earlier stories in the Old Testament are based off of. Um, you know, other
Yeah.
critical literary people have probably more to say, but the actual what's it called when there's a quote in the very beginning? Epitaph?
Yeah.
Epigraph?
I don't know.
I have a degree in English literature.
Is epitaph like a gravestone thing?
I think epitaph is gravestone.
Epigraph? Epigraph.
Epigraph. Cool.
Yep. A phrase, quotation, or poem that is set at the beginning of a document or chapter.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, the book has two epigraphs. The first one is a big stanza from Gilgamesh that mostly talks about how love's kiss kills our heart of flesh. It is the only way to eternal life. So it's talking about kissing and alive and eternity, which is like kind of obviously a big theme. And then the next
Yeah.
epigraph is just dot dot dot, also from Gilgamesh, which I love because all frequently when R's talking to Julie, he'll just say something and he'll say dot dot dot. Like half of him talking is dot dot dot. So I love that it's like this deep, like big chunk from Gilgamesh, and then also just an ellipses.
Yeah. Just an ellipses.
Yeah. But Perry is obsessed with Gilgamesh and the memories and like talks about
Hmm.
it. If I had thought about it, I would have reread Gilgamesh. Actually, I don't know if I would have. I would have looked at the Gilgamesh Spark notes.
Yeah.
But he does like talk about that and just like the idea of where does life come from, what is the meaning of life, that kind of vibe. Because Perry's really into that, especially like which makes sense when the world's, you know, falling apart. Nora, who's like, I love Nora as a character, the best friend,
Yeah.
because she's like, this is weird, but also
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow it and see where it goes. Because she's also like she's pre-med and she wants to help find the cure for the zombie situation. So her having this access to the zombie, she's like, I don't really support this, but I'm gonna see what happens here.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, and they essentially put R in human drag,
Yeah,
which
it's
I
really
love.
good.
They
Yeah.
put him, yeah. Oh, I forgot. It's so like early 2000s, like emo boy. The whole time R has been wearing a tie, a red
Yep.
tie, if I believe. Yeah. It's like
Yep.
I just picture like My Chemical Romance style
Yep.
little tie.
White
Um,
shirt, red tie. Well,
yep.
I don't know if they say white shirt, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of what he's like. I wonder what I did in, when I was a human to be
Hmm.
wearing a tie, because that's pretty
Yeah.
formal.
Yeah. Especially I mean, a lot of people dress up to go flying. I don't,
No, absolutely
but
not.
I'm like, give me those sweatpants. No one look at me.
Yeah.
The girls take R out into the city to like show him around. and they visit Julie's mom's graveyard or gravestone, and then R falls into Perry's grave because he's like
Hmm.
having this like intense memory of Perry's last day alive.
Yeah.
Um, which is like so creepy and like meta, right? Because we're watching from Perry's perspective as R eats him.
Yeah.
And
And then
then
he's falling into this grave.
yeah. And at one point Perry talks to R and is like, we're in this together, corpse. Like, I am now a part of you,
Yeah.
which is such a weird concept.
Yeah,
Um,
it does. It gets weird. And obviously, like you said, the whole thing is weird. But I
mhm.
would say the peak weirdness is when, yeah, Perry addresses
Yeah.
R in it's not a brain dream, it's not a real dream, it's like a vision
Hmm.
hallucination kind of thing almost of
Yeah.
like acknowledging that like you've consumed my brain, so like yeah, we're together.
Hmm. They go to the pub, which is a non-alcoholic pub because you can't have people getting drunk and going crazy in an apocalyptic situation. But of
Yeah.
course, the girls are rebels and they have snuck in mini bottles of alcohol and they get a bit drunk. R is also able to drink the alcohol and he also feels drunk.
Yeah. And it sounds like he's quite sensitive to it,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I guess kind of makes sense given that his whole body and system is like messed up because
Yeah.
he's a zombie.
R tells Nora that he's the one that killed Perry, and she's like, "Yeah, I know. Like I was there. I saw you."
Yeah.
Because he hasn't directly told Julie that he's the one that killed Perry. Julie is like earlier back at the airplane is like, "Who killed him?" And all R says is, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
So like, it's not like a full "I did it" admittance, but it is
Right.
like I'm a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, because then we get this part, it's like a little weird, but we find out for a while Julie, because Julie's dad, also important, is like in charge of this whole military situation. And
Yes.
so she's like the rebel, and at one point she was a like working as a sex worker for a bit to like be a rebellion, but
Hmm.
like as like still a teenager, just because
Yeah.
I mean, it's post-apocalyptic, like people are doing stuff that normally wouldn't. And
Right.
obviously her mom is dead. Her dad is, we find out through memories, is like an alcoholic and ignores her.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And we find this out, but R slams that guy into the wall. And then a guard comes and R attacks the guard and starts to eat him.
Yeah.
And
In the middle of the human
yeah,
settlement,
in the street.
he yeah, he yeah, which is I mean unexpected because you're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, he's changing. He doesn't have an appetite." Like I mean, I was not thinking like, "Oh, our I was like, "Oh, I hope R stays safe in this human
Hmm.
settlement because no one can find out he's a zombie." I didn't think like, "Oh, R's a zombie. I hope he doesn't kill anyone."
Yeah. And then, but he ends up puking up the guard, which just like, I mean, eating, let me be clear, eating people is gross and we shouldn't do it. This is a zombie novel. But like the idea of then puke, I just also hate puke and I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive to it. So reading that,
Hmm.
I was like, this is the worst thing I've read in this whole
Yeah.
book. Not the kids killing adults, not the in general cannibalism of these zombies. This.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
Ugh.
disgusting.
Yeah.
But I feel like the puke is supposed to make us think like, oh, like he can't stomach eating a human
Hmm.
anymore. That's good,
And it's like
but
a
it's so
very
bad.
like human thing too. I mean, obviously animals
Yeah.
puke too, but like we haven't seen a zombie do that
Yeah.
previously. So in our zombie knowledge is like, okay, is this horrible thing he just did the reaction to it
Oh no.
because he feels bad or because he's human? And then R like goes back to the girls. And then Julie takes R to the foster home where Perry lived. We also have like some flashbacks of I thought this was fun. The that Julie is like a teacher in this world, and she
Hmm.
read the foster kids Redwall, which I recently just read for the podcast. And
Yeah.
by the time this is up, the episode is out, and I was like, "This is hilarious!" And I just finished Redwall before reading this, and I was like, "Whoa,
It's such a specific crossover.
yeah!" And just not the pick I would have chosen to make like. It's not like it has any like nothing in Redwall happens that happens in this book.
Right.
It's not like there's
It's
any like
random.
mimicry. Yeah, it's just random. But I thought it was fun. But anyways, they go up to Perry's room and R finds uh Perry's manuscript that he was writing because he wanted to be a writer this whole time until like the
Right.
last, I don't know, like 6 months of his life where he got really into the military life, which
Yeah.
Julie hated because he was acting like his dad and like
Hmm.
changing and kind of just becoming like almost lifeless, as in like just aggression,
Right. And
arguably like a zombie.
right. Good point.
Yeah.
Because yeah, at the start, the first memories we see from Perry are, like you said, he's artistic, he's wants to be a writer, and it seems like a point in the end of the world where obviously that still seems like an okay aspiration. And obviously as those memories continue, it's like, okay, well, the world is kind of ending, so we don't really need writers. We need, you know, soldiers, we need construction people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really need to give up on this, like, writing thing.
Mm-hmm. And that theme is the like that's part of like the Gilgamesh of it all is that the idea that even when society has to essentially restart, like the stadium is restarting, like art is still important. Art, it's they talk a lot about how, especially in this section, they talk about how like memories are important, but the opposite of memories is hope, and art
Hmm.
helps bring that hope, and tying the hope to memories, and
Yeah.
um, and Isaac Marion as an author and as a person, this makes sense that he is talking about the importance of art in like a destructive world. Like it's very much his vibe. Um,
Yes.
and it was a lot of Perry's vibe throughout the book until the very end. Um,
Right.
yeah. Then there's the big zombie breach because they have figured out that someone got eaten by a zombie. Um,
Right.
and they hide in the house. And this part cracked me up is they get a phone call and it's M from the phone that Julie had called on. And they're like, "How did you get your number?" And he's like, "I just pushed last dialed." Like M, like zombie brain could figure that out. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
is funny.
but we find out there's way more zombies that are starting to change that are gathering with M in the city. And so Julie's dad comes home, finds out that R is a zombie, and then they like have this big chase scene, and R and
Yeah.
Julie escape by jumping out of the stadium, and R uses his body to like protect Julie.
Yeah.
But I feel like his bone would like break and then stab her. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It's like how much cushioning is
Yeah.
happening?
Um, they meet with the hundreds of zombies, and we find out that they can't go back to the airport because the Bonies have like fully kicked them out, and
Yeah.
are mad because the zombies are changing.
Hmm.
And they specifically want to go and they want to attack Julie and R because those are the zombies those are the people who started this change.
Right.
Um, they can't go back into the stadium, but they also can't lead the Bonies to the stadium because Julie's like, "I don't want everyone I know to innocently die."
Right.
And so they hide in the like abandoned city, and the Bonies all attack R and Julie because they started it all. And then they're able to like wait, and then the stadium sends their guard. So then the like the living and the Bonies are fighting. And they eventually get up to the roof of the stadium, right? Is that where the
Hmm.
final
Yeah.
bit happens?
Yeah.
And uh Julie's dad's there. He almost falls off the stadium, and then the Bonies save him,
Yeah.
but then they bite him.
Yeah.
Uh, It's like, I'm gonna save you and then eat you. Um, and then Julie like shoots the bonies, and then her dad falls off the side of the stadium with them. And we find out that ours ends up bleeding through this attack, but he's feeling pain and he's alive.
Yeah. He's all of a sudden realizes that he's bleeding and it's like fresh blood. It's not like his gross coagulated like
Ooh.
undead blood. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine. It's part of the genre.
Yeah, so it's like yeah, he has wounds that are actively bleeding and he's feeling pain and it's like okay, this is like a major
Hmm.
like crossover from undead to alive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also Julie and our kiss up here. I forgot that's really
Oh
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is important.
Yeah, they kiss right before the whole thing with the dad and our bleeding. Yeah.
I feel like if I were Julie,
Hmm.
I would have a little bit more disgust towards this undead captor.
Yeah.
I don't know. As a teen, I was like, this is so romantic. As an adult, I'm like, this is gross. Like,
Can you imagine how dry his lips are? Like he needs so much exfoliant,
it's
you
so
know?
nasty. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I get it. Like he's becoming human
Hmm.
and it like culminates in this like his heart beats, he's bleeding, they have this kiss, but it's still like a little gross. Like
Hmm.
I think if I were, even developing feelings for this undead creature, I would wait
Hmm.
until he was like more solidly not a
Yeah.
zombie anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah, and I feel that way with most movies where they don't kiss until after the battle and they're all like gross and sweaty and haven't showered for days. Like that's how I feel about like most action movies. But then you add the zombie
yeah,
aspect.
right.
Yeah. It's important for the like what gets him alive. Is it love?
Hmm.
Is it something else?
Right.
So it is important for like the whole theme of the book, but
Right.
still gross.
It's essential, arguably, but yeah. But in a practical way, it's like, hmm, interesting choice,
Interesting
Julie.
choice. Yeah. Don't want to shame, just,
Yeah,
a little bit, maybe.
just a little.
Just a little. And then the last part of the book is called Step Three, Living. It's kind of just like wrapping up everything. But Nora and Russo, who's another like battle guy, he's like the cool uncle that's in the military that Julie has. Um,
Yeah.
they meet with the half dead, and Marcus, which is M's name, he says, "My name's
Yes.
Marcus." And they're like starting to think about ways of how they can make these zombies more like the living and scientifically.
Yeah.
Um, ours two kids are still alive and well and but
Hmm.
acting more like kids and less like zombies. And then Julie and R have like a cute little day out in the sun in their car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just
just like,
cruising.
yeah. But rereading this, I was just like, I think I was also reading this right around the inauguration of America's current president.
Hmm.
And I was like, this I think was a good book to read during then because it was
Yeah.
ridiculous, but also there's parts of this book where I'm like, this is something I could see happening,
I
you
agree.
know?
And that's part of why like I struggled a little bit to finish it because I was like reading it before bed. Like I like to read
Hmm.
before bed. And I was like, this whole like world ending stuff is like a little too close to home right now.
Hmm.
Like I actually like had a bad dream after reading it one night and I was like, this is like not a scary book. Like this is a
Yeah.
comfort read for me. But for
Yeah.
some reason, the whole like, yeah, like government dissolving and like
Hmm.
pandemic, like zombie
Hmm.
disease. It's just like it hits different than it did in 2011,
Yeah,
like in
very
a
much
bad way.
so. Yes. But also the like philosophical stuff and like the express like the super obvious stuff about needing art and how it's really important for hope and the importance of hope in both the stadium in Julie's life, but also in
Yeah.
R and the zombies. and the hope for change, even just like a little change of being like, I can say a full sentence, that like
Yeah.
really hit, you
Yeah,
know?
for
So like it
sure.
was a very like low and high kind of reading experience. I was like, oh, and then like, oh, and then oh
Yeah.
no.
I totally agree. And I totally like I love the message of like
Hmm.
the importance of art and meaning even when, it's like things seem really hopeless and like when you think about
Hmm.
the future, it does not seem very positive.
Hmm.
Um and then also yeah, the transformation of, a zombie killer killer zombie into a human and like yeah like you said the hope for change and
Hmm.
yeah
Yeah.
it's so good, so
I
good.
it is such a like it's still one of my favorite books, and I think this is the third time I've reread it, but again, you know, it's been over a decade, and it's one that I will revisit. The book series, for listeners, and I know Kara does this because I know you're a big fan, but there is a prequel called The New Hunger, which I actually have not read the prequel, but
I have not.
I read the sequel,
Hmm.
which I forget what it's called. I have it on my bookshelf, but that is too far away.
I think it's the burning world,
Yes, The Burning World,
and
which
then the living is the
The Living
last
is
one.
the last one, which I have, but I did not read. So I've not read the
Yeah,
prequel or The Living. Um, I did read The Burning World and I did really like it. That
yeah,
again
me
was
too.
back in 2016 or 17 when it came out.
Hmm.
And if for listeners, if you're really into like apocalyptic worlds and what happens to make that, The Burning World is like a great book for that. It reminds me of, have you ever seen the movie The Postman,
I have
with
not.
Kevin Costner? It's a post-apocalyptic, it's also a book. I've never read the book, but my dad loves the movie, so we watched it all the time. But it's as if America was post-apocalyptic, like everything's destroyed and there's
Yeah.
settlements all across America. And so this guy finds a dead postman, puts on his outfit, and has his mail truck slash cart. I don't know if it's a car. Anyways, and he goes from settlement to settlement, being like, "I'm the postman. Feed me. Here's some letters." And
Mm.
like he
Hmm.
becomes a symbol of hope. It's a great movie. There's a cameo of Tom Petty playing himself.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, but anyways, but The Burning World gave me that similar vibe where because it's like a road trip
Yeah.
novel of sorts. So if you liked The Burning World, you'll like The Postman and vice versa. At least the
Hmm.
movie, I've not read the book, so don't quote me on that. Maybe I will one day, but
Yeah,
anyways.
for the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I should. Um, yeah, I loved this book, and I'm curious to see how the it ends with the living. Isaac Marion lived a very interesting life since he published this, because
Yeah.
he was like living out of his car before after he published this book. He was then living out of his car until the movie came out. Then he got money from the movie royalties and was able to start publishing the second book through a publisher traditionally, and then he ended up publishing The Living himself.
Yeah.
Um and now he lives in like Pacific Northwest. Oh, he's always lived in the Seattle area, but he lives like
Yeah.
on a mountaintop. Have you followed him on Instagram?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
lives like in a shack.
Hmm.
Maybe that's like not the right word. He lives in a tiny house, let's call it
Yeah.
that, like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Uh I assume off grid, like legitimately off grid.
Hmm.
He is working on a new book,
Hmm.
but yeah, he has a very like interesting
Vibe. Yeah.
lifestyle and
Hmm.
vibe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And he'll just like post videos of him walking through like so much snow. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
he's on the top of like some like part of either the Cascades or the Rockies in the Pacific Northwest. He's on some mountain out there. And I think he also writes for like some website journal of some sort. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
that.
Well, and he said he's got a big project writing for a video game
Hmm.
of
Which
some kind.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I can see Warm
Yeah.
Bodies being a video game kind of situation.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. But um I'm so excited to rewatch the movie. And then talk about the movie. Uh
Yeah.
but
I love this book.
yeah, I love
That's
this book.
all.
Yes. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and thank you, Kara, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow us at Read the Book First podcast on Instagram. I'll be posting lots of stuff. I'm gonna post a lot of quotes from this book because it has some real good quotes. So look forward for that. Rate us 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, don't worry about it. Thank you. And share the podcast with your friends. And remember, read the book first.